So the Consumer Electronics Show of 2020 kicked off earlier this week. And Jason, you and I have been watching the headlines and all of the new products being announced. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today on Jason Squared. I'm Jason Cipriani with Jason Perlow. And let's dive right in, Jason. What do you think of CES so far?
Well, Jason, I haven't been going to CES for a couple of years now. It's a really, really big show. And, I think, I think the type of products that we're seeing now that we've seen in years past are sort of more of the same stuff, right? We're not really getting I'm not seeing a ton of super innovative things. I think we just get to see stuff that are kind of iterative now. We get to see new players come into already established spaces that might have potential disruptor capability because of pricing or what have you, but I'm not seeing anything that's completely blown me away this year.
Yeah, I'm with you. I stopped going to CES a few years ago for my job and what I do. You would think it would be important to be there and see the show floor and actual products in person, but it's so large now. I think they said 170,000 people are there this year on the show floor. It's ridiculously crazy to get around from appointment to appointment. And basically what you end up doing is canceling all of your appointments or missing the majority of them and getting press releases, trying to sneak by the booth, take a couple pictures, and writing up the news story. So it's easier for me to cover from home. I don't get sick this way.
I don't like getting sick either, man.
With all those people there, and I still get pictures and press releases and able to cover it far easier from here. But we've rounded up some highlights, some lowlights, and some almost laughable products we've seen this year. One thing I would like to start off with is Oneplus, the smartphone maker who does really cheap, not cheap, but inexpensive Android phones with flagship level specs inside of them. They've done a great job with it. They showed off a concept phone this year. It's the first time OnePlus has been at CES. The Concept One basically has the guts of one of their previous models, but on the backside of that phone is a triple camera setup that has electrochromic glass. And what that means is when electricity is put to that glass, it can change colors. So what OnePlus has done with it is it's black when it's off. You open the camera app, and within a second, 0.7 seconds specifically, that glass turns clear and the three cameras are revealed. I'm not sure how practical it is, but it's cool technology that has implications that can be used maybe on a front-facing camera to blend in and hide the notch. Or I think you have some other ideas as well for that technology.
Yeah, I've seen electrochromic glass in use in really, really high-tech, conference rooms, where you have instantaneous polarization, for concealing, for privacy concealment, for UV, reduction. So I've seen it in aerospace for things like windows and cars and stuff. And it's really, I gotta say, it's really cool. Yeah. I don't know how useful it is on a smartphone, to do the whole James Bond, here it is, and kind of thing. Sure. But I can definitely see it potentially, if they can miniaturize it, if they can get it down to practical costs, putting it on sunglasses, maybe having transparent AR, VR glasses that can flip between, AR mode and VR mode.
Yeah.
Or being able to adjust the polarization so that you can see the heads up better against certain backgrounds than others. There's a lot of things you could do with it. So I'm saying, yeah, you know what, OnePlus, keep developing this. Maybe I don't want it on my next smartphone, but I do want to see this in products in the future.
Yeah, I was reading through some of the finer specs of it, and basically what they're truly trying to show off here is that they have been able to miniaturize it. It takes 2 plates of glass in order to make this happen, and they've done it under, I think, 0.35 millimeters or 3.5 millimeters. I don't remember the exact specs, but it was significantly smaller than what previous implementations of this technology have been. So they've hit it on a miniature scale. Now they need to mass market it and find a different use for it. And they have a TV. They're not opposed to going into different areas of technology. So AR glasses, I think, is a perfect use case. Another highlight that caught my eye the last couple of days, and a few companies have announced these. Intel is probably the most notable company because it's Intel, but they have a Ghost Canyon Nook, which is next unit of computing. And basically it is a small shell of a computer where they've miniaturized these sleds and the components that go inside, but it's basically a full desktop gaming PC that you could swap out parts. Right now, I think it's the Intel Core i9 and i7 processors that these sleds accept. So it's going to be on the high end, but you're able to have this really small gaming computer that's portable and can go anywhere with you, and then upgrade components later on. I think it has a huge potential, not just for gaming, but for business users as well, especially graphic designers and photo editors and stuff like that.
Yeah, Jason, I've always loved little itty bitty computers. I started buying Mac Mini servers back in, I don't know, 2011 or something like that. That's how long I was actually upgrading one of my old Macs the other day, and then I realized just how old it was when I looked at the model number on it. Apple was doing this 10 years ago, just about. And the Nook has been around for a while. It's never really been a system builder kind of thing. It's always been kind of like a Linux hacker, kind of a box or something. But to bring it to content creation professionals and to gamers, to be able to put a really nice package of hardware in a really small space is fantastic. I mean, I got this giant HP server underneath my desk, with a giant graphics card for doing Windows stuff. I'd like to get away from that, honestly, especially be able to be more power efficient and just be able to take more of my desktop space back, honestly.
Yeah, and it's great if you could take it on the road with you, hook it up to a TV and game wherever you're at, or work on, video editing. Razer has one as well that's a little bit bigger. Intel's is the smallest from what I understand. Really cool tech. I hope it's not overly expensive and prices itself out of the market, but we'll have to wait and see on that. While we're talking about computers, there's some really cool computer technology, particularly with displays, that we need to talk about. Foldable tablets and laptops, meaning not just a normal clamshell laptop, but the actual display covers the entire thing and folds, just like the Samsung Galaxy Fold. Tell me a little bit about these, Jason.
Yeah, so I mean, what we're taking is the same technology that we're seeing from the Samsung Galaxy Fold, and the Huawei actually had a device, and what we're seeing over with Motorola with the Razr. We are looking at actually taking the actual tablet itself, with no perceivable kind of a hinge mechanism, and folding it over like a taco, essentially, right? So I think this has a lot of potential for having digital convergence, right? Where you don't have to own both a tablet and a desktop or laptop at the same time. We kind of saw this, originally with the Surface, with which we really are calling a transformable, when you have a disconnectable keyboard to the tablet. But really, this is the keyboard and the tablet in the same thing, right?
Yeah.
So we're literally turning the screen into the keyboard. That's into a touch screen interface. So I think it's really cool and Star Trek-y. Now, my concern going forward is, how mature is this technology enough yet to be used in an enterprise environment or in vertical integration space where you're going to be moving this hinge a lot?
Right.
How durable is the construction on this thing? A lot of that, right? Now, I think eventually it will get there, right? I just don't think right now this is something more than what real early adopter executives with a lot of money to burn
Right.
are going to use.
You're basically taking the Galaxy Fold, which has, I think it's like a 7-inch screen when it's open, and you're expanding that to 17 inches is what Lenovo's screen is, for $2,500, which it's not much more than the Galaxy Fold. So you're getting a full computer running Windows 10 for $500 more than you could get the Galaxy Fold for. But to your point, this is unproven technology. We've seen it in limited batches. Galaxy Fold, the Razr was delayed supposedly due to high demand. I'm not sold on that. We're supposed to see another Galaxy Fold 2 later on this year, or actually next month in February. Still, the technology isn't proven.
And mind you, the Razr so far appears to be the best implementation, and it's probably it is the smallest of all those devices.
Yeah, rumor is the Galaxy Fold 2 will have the same clamshell design as the Razr, which opens up like a traditional flip phone. So I'm really intrigued to see that. Another highlight that kind of could have been gone on the low light aspect of this as well, but I have to give props to Ring. They announced a bunch of smart lighting products, which those are whatever, that's fine. But what they did is they tried to get out of, and change the narrative about their privacy and security issues. And they're updating their mobile app and adding a control center that gives users more control over what's connected to their Ring account. They're requiring two-factor authentication now. They're taking a bunch of steps. They're not proactive. They're very reactive, because this has been about a year worth of being in the news and everything else going on. But they're at least taking the right steps to right the ship and get everything working how it should, and privately and securely. So I just wanted to quickly mention that. We haven't seen what Control Center is going to look like in the app, but hopefully it's implemented right, and they'll do good things with it. What else do you want to call out here about CES, Jason?
Yeah, so we have a couple other items. Wi-Fi 6 is already starting to appear in products. Netgear's got a Wi-Fi 6 router. I think Wi-Fi 6 is going to be a major improvement to previous generations, but the devices, the client devices, are going to need to catch up, and so is everyone's broadband connection to really take advantage of it, right? I mean, you're not going to be able to use multi-gigabit Wi-Fi with a very small pipe. That kind of doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens, but the hardware looks initially very good. What I thought was interesting was TCL now has smartphones, and a lot of you may not have heard of TCL. It's kind of a bargain basement Chinese television brand.
Yeah.
They came out with a sub $500 5G smartphone.
It's insane. I think it's probably one of the most exciting things I've seen announced. Like that, every 5G phone we've seen so far has been $1,400. So
yeah, I mean,
under $500
honestly,
bucks.
Nice smartphones should not cost $1,000 anymore, Jason. They should all freaking cost $500 or less. We're already starting to see some movement. Samsung had light versions of the Galaxy 10 and the Note 10 at the show. And of course the 800-pound gorillas that were not in the room. Google will have a Pixel 4a most likely that is going to use Qualcomm's lower level chipset, more economical chipset. We'll probably see something in the $400 level. And then there's the rumored Apple iPhone SE2, which seems to be a reality, right? So
yeah, I mean, it has to happen eventually. Lower end smartphones are tremendously good for their price point, and not just spec wise, but performance. Really, truly, when you use a lower end smartphone coming from a flagship, there's a day or two of acclimation to a few things, mainly the display. But other than that, it's a normal smartphone that does all the other things that your $1,500 iPhone 11 Pro Max does. Just, I'm glad to see TCL get into this. They have a sub brand called Alcatel. Most people probably know those because they're sold pretty widely, especially at Walmart and through carriers. But the TCL 10 series brand is, I'm really intrigued by it. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
I'm totally looking forward to it. Some other cool stuff that we saw at the show is a nod to Star Wars. A company called BrainCo now has a prosthetic hand, a bionic robotic hand, just like Luke Skywalker has. We got it chopped off in Empire Strikes Back by Darth Vader. He hit him with the lightsaber, right?
Spoiler alert.
This is going to be, spoiler alert. But this is the first bionic device that is truly over the counter, not customized. It is expected to cost $10,000 or more, but this could really help people with amputation issues. I'm really excited by the prospect of people having fully fulfilled lives with having bionic hands. I mean, that sounds really freaking cool. I mean,
I didn't see anything about that one, but it sounds great. I agree with you. Fully fulfilled lives is the goal for everyone, I think. Yeah, that's a hard word to say.
And speaking of fully fulfilled, because in Florida we get a lot of sun glare with the way that the roads are kind of east to west, with the major highways. Sun glare can totally paralyze traffic, man. And until we've got autonomous vehicles that can drive themselves, that can ignore that, we need a way to deal with sun glare. Bosch just came out with a augmented reality visor that goes on. It replaces your standard visor that allows automobiles to be driven during heavy sun glare situation. I presume also low light situations if you have a night vision camera, so that literally you're looking at the road and it's an exact representation of what's in front of you. Which I think is going to be really cool, but it'll eliminate the sun glare, obviously with some type of polarization or something like that.
Yeah, I saw a quick video of this or GIF of it, and it looked interesting. I would definitely want that in a vehicle if it was a viable option.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think this is something that car manufacturers are probably looking to add to as part of their options rather than maybe an aftermarket thing. But I think it sounds really cool. Speaking of cars. Looks like Sony is testing the waters with going into the car business. Are they not?
No, I think what they did is they built a concept electric car to show off their sensors and they're cameras that can be used for autonomous driving. From what I understand, they have uh, zero desire to enter into car manufacturing at all. But this is more of, hey, here's a concept car. Here's what we can do with that car. And really, people like Tesla.
So reference standards, a component manufacturing play,
Yeah,
that sort
exactly.
of thing.
But the car itself looks amazing. It has a 200 kilowatt hour battery, which Model 3s only have, Tesla Model 3s have 75
Wow.
hour batteries. This thing is a beast. And 0 to 60 in 4.5. It hits all the marks of a true electric car that people would want to buy, but it is strictly a concept car, which is unfortunate because it looks great.
Yeah. So let's talk about, sort of the things that we didn't really like, before we trail off. 8K television. Who the hell needs one of those things, right?
I don't get it. I get that companies are previewing, hey, we're able to make these 8K televisions, and in a few years, you'll want to replace your 4K TVs. But there's a lot of stage time, a lot of production, a lot of booth space taken up by these 8K TVs that are far too expensive right now, and there is almost zero content for. Unless you're recording in 8K your home videos, odds of you finding something to sit down and binge watch are very little. I could care less about 8K TVs right now. Let's focus on something else.
I got nothing wrong with the 8K technology for content producers. If you're producing movies, if you're Disney or something like that, source material, fine. But you don't need that for home. That's ridiculous. The other thing I thought was interesting was, the lack of the major manufacturers yet again this year. No Apple, no Microsoft, no Amazon. The people that are really playing in the consumer space were not at the consumer show. It's not, this is not really a consumer electronics show anymore. Look at who the keynote speakers were, Jason.
Yeah, exactly. This hasn't been a consumer show for quite a while, actually, if you look back a few years, but it feels like this year more than ever, it really is not a consumer electronics show. Look at Samsung's keynote, look at LG, look at Sony's keynote. All of that stuff was very specific use cases in the enterprise, which is fine. That stuff needs to happen, but this is a consumer electronics show. Sony spent some time, actually LG and Samsung spent time talking about cities that they're going to build that are connected. And what? Like, I'm not going to go move into a city that LG built or Samsung built. It's just not going to happen.
The show has so moved away from its core purposes. The fact that we have Impossible Pork at this thing, is a bit of a strain. Everybody wants to try the Impossible Pork now. I get it. But there was a lot. There was some dumb stuff at this show. You had the toilet paper robot from Charmin.
Yeah.
The Samsung workout exoskeleton. What the hell was that?
Yeah, it was this exoskeleton you put on. You wore AR glasses, and it provided resistance as your AR companion walked you through exercises. I don't
like going to gym, but that sounds like a bit extreme, don't you think?
I'm not going to put on an exoskeleton. I joked on Twitter that the exoskeleton actually was required to fight the dinosaurs that Samsung put in its virtual connected city because.
Jason, I think we've seen that movie already, and it's already on the bargain bin.
I don't know.
Walmart.
Charmin also announced a VIP that is a porta potty with a Oculus VR headset in it that you can put on if you're at a concert or a music festival, so you don't miss the show. That's consumer tech, right? That's as consumer as it gets, I think.
I totally think movie theaters should have the televisions in the bathroom so that I don't miss, what's going on in the 5 minutes that I jump in and out, whatever.
Yeah.
And of course, you're always going to have, in a nod to the future, the flying cars. Look, I want a flying car as much as everybody else, but the reality is, the ability to make flying cars is not the problem why we don't have flying cars, right? We would have to completely overhaul our air traffic control system and all that, and the way that the flight patterns work to accommodate these things. And
Uber and Hyundai announced a flying taxi, and it's actually on the show floor. You could go look at the concept model of it, and it looks futuristic. I'll give it that. It looks more like a helicopter. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're not ready for the Jetsons yet, and regulations and like you said, air traffic. I have to file with the FAA to fly a 250 grand drone around my house. How is Uber and Hyundai going to fly this giant taxi across the sky? It's cool. We're not there yet. Let's focus
Yeah,
on the now. But
cool.
I think that's a good roundup of CES 2020. I haven't really seen anything else outside of that that's caught my eye. I mean, there's random stuff, but it's mostly accessories. And
It's like I said, a lot more of the same. You know, a lot of million TV sets as usual. You have the occasional sex toy pops up to make people freak out, but other than that, that was the show
yeah,
basically, as far as I'm
absolutely.
concerned.
That's a good summary of it.
Yeah,
Once again, with Jason Squared, I'm Jason Cipriani.
I'm Jason Perlow.
Make sure to check out more of our videos at zdnet.com. And if you're watching this on YouTube, let us know in the comments what you thought about CES 2020.